Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the charts behind me. So, welcome to Ticker Request Live. This is something I do every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Take ticker requests, go over the charts live. I do have a handful of tickers up here that I'm interested to go over, also interested to dive into the unusual whales options activity with them, but I can also skip them if there are requests. And so before I get into the stream, I don't see any requests so far, but when requests start coming in, there are some rules with this just so everybody can, get their requests through. If you do have a request, put it in the chat. It should be one ticker at most. If you do multiple tickers, I'll spend too much time on your requests and I won't be able to get to everybody's requests. And also, if you do two requests, I will not know which one to prioritize. So just do one at a time. If there isn't that much activity, I'm happy to do multiple requests per person, but just send them to me one one at a time. And another thing is that the past maybe month, I haven't been putting timestamps on these. And so I'm not going to do that anymore just because it takes a lot of time, it drains me, and then I end up putting out less videos because of it, or I feel like that's an end result. So if you are curious to know what tickers I cover in this, flip through the live chat, even if you're watching this after the stream, after it's been recorded, maybe you're watching it on Tuesday, you should be able to scroll through the live chat and see, what tickers people requested, and then you can just kind of scan through to see where in the video, which tickers I'm going over. And I see RM there. What's up? LEU. Yeah, I'll definitely go over LEU. Very interesting one. I was following it early last week, but then towards the end of the week, I didn't continue to follow it, but it seemed like it was a pretty nice performer. And and so before I get into the charts, something that I try to do unless I'm not really feeling that well, I've been at work all weekend, so I'm pretty tired. I was gonna have a beer, but I thought that'd be too much, so I made the typical drink for these streams. It's always nice to start them out saying cheers to you guys, cheers to the week ahead. I hope you guys had great weekends. I hope you're looking forward to the week ahead. I only have to work Wednesday and Thursday this week because I'm on kind of a rotation. I've been working the past 3 days, 12-hour shifts, so I am ready for my weekend to begin, and I'm glad that I get to spend it getting into the market because I think it's going to be a pretty exciting week. So anyways, cheers to you guys. All right. I made that stronger than I needed to, but oh well. And let's see. So Jared, if you want to send me one of those tickers, I'll go over one of them, whichever you prioritize. And if it's kind of a slow evening, there's not too much going on in the chat, I'd be happy to follow up with the other one. So yeah, just let me know in the chat, but I will begin by going over LEU, which, last week, so let's see, I'm just going to kind of, go over when I last spoke about it. I feel like that was on last Sunday, so that was following the 20th, where the cursor is here, and we got a close at a price of 45.01 last Friday, so on the 20th. And I had suggested that it could be coming up to, one thing, I was just looking at the Neo chart, and I was looking at it with the y-axis being logarithmic, so I'm just going to switch back to linear. And I can go over the Neo chart if you guys want as well. Lots of interesting stuff to be going over. But I think I was actually looking at this one on the weekly time frame. And yeah, wow, this is insane. Because so like here I drew this downtrend from the high. It's ending the week November 12th, 2021. And then this one, the other pivot high is the week ending September 29th of 2023, those two pivot points. And so we tested that as resistance over here. And so I was thinking that we'd be breaking out. I thought price might be consolidating in this area, and we are above it now. And so My thoughts on that. This is the weekly chart, so I'll flip back to the daily as well. But looking at it like this, my thoughts are it has gone above this area that I thought, resistance would be corresponding with the levels over here, this consolidation. We're above that now. So I think there's quite the possibility that it could pull back and maybe pull back into this box and maybe find this downtrend as support. But it seems like there's a lot of momentum behind it. There's a lot of volume over the past week pushing it higher. The RSI on the weekly is still below 70. Here it looks like it's at 65.09. And it does look like the MACD just flipped green over the past couple weeks. And actually, yeah, I mean, like after so when I did this, I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the analysis from last week, but it did flip green, the MACD, which was 0.05. And then this past week, it's 1.19. And so, I could see that continuing because, the RSI is still below 70. There's volume behind it. MACD really just flipped, to be pronounced green. It's also breaking out of this downtrend. And we closed, let's see, the high was 57.84. We closed 12 cents below that, so pretty close to the top, considering that the weekly move was almost $13. So went up $12.71 over the course of last week. So pretty massive there, and that represents a little over 28%. And so, I mean, at this point, I feel like this is risky, like as far as entering goes, because it could be pulling back into this box, testing this downtrend. But like I said, I think it looks like there's momentum behind it. It does seem like it will continue going. So like I don't have a position in it. If I did have a position in it, it just moved up 28%. And the way that I like to think about percentage moves, and I'm probably, not really that exciting in ways that I take profits. But, I just think about like, if I put money in the savings account, how much am I getting for that? It's let's say 4 to 5% for a year if it's a high interest savings account, or at least I have one that was 5 and I think it's drifting down to 4. And that's over the course of a year. And so if just over the course of a week, this goes up 28%, that is pretty good. 10%, I think that you could say, that's good, but maybe it could go a little bit higher. 28%, that makes me think that's a good move. And so I feel like it's a good time to take a little bit off the table. I'm a big fan of trimming, not selling all at one level, but at this point, it's like take a little bit off the table. If it does pull back, you can put that back in. If it continues higher, you're still holding the rest of it, and you secured a little bit of the profit, taking that risk down a little bit. And so I feel like that's kind of a nice way to trade these things. But I mean, like I said, it seems like there's momentum behind it. I think it could be coming back to 61.35 was the high over here. And so I would look for that to be some resistance, and it could do something like kind of like what NEO did recently. Big move up, and then it consolidated for about 2 weeks, I believe, and then broke higher. So, what you want to see with something like this is a move up that's sustained consolidation, and then that would be kind of a time to like, okay, this looks like it's a bull flag. It might be going higher. But yeah, I think this looks really good. I'm just going to flip over to the daily. I see there's been some activity in the chat, so I'll not take too much time on this. But yeah, I mean, like see here how it's like it's moved up a bunch and it's like it's consolidating up here. So that makes me think that there's probably another leg on this move. But, if we do look at the MACD, yeah, I mean, the indicators I was just talking about, let's review those. Let's think about those. And I have to note, I am still working on my understanding of these indicators and especially volume. But so if we look at the MACD, this is like massively high. So for the daily, it's up to 2. It really hasn't gotten up that high in these past run-ups. So that looks pretty impressive. RSI is 81.54. When's the last time that it was up that high? Over here, it went up to 81.95. So that's pretty similar. It did go higher following that big move in the RSI. And so I feel like what's happening right now is that it's probably going to cool off. It may very well be pulling back into this box and retesting this downtrend, but that might take a couple weeks. And kind of a tell here that this was not a bull flag, in my view, is that basically this big move up, it wasn't able to, let's see, the high on this day, November 9th, 2021, the high on that day was 79.99. The close on this day was 80.01. So yeah, that was good. That was that was a nice move. But then kind of applying the same logic here, the high on this day, the 11th, November 11th, the high was 86.95. And then up here, get a wick higher, but a close lower, start to see this pulling back. And then there are just all of these wicks, pushing up, getting rejected. It bleeds. So I think the important thing to look for is, and then also like the MACD here switch to negative, so it's like you get these big wicks up, attempting to get up, and then here it comes down. The MACD flips negative, RSI pulls back into the, sub 70 zone here. And so I think that's something that's going to be good to look forward to. If there are pushes higher, you want to see, is there momentum behind them? Does it look like it's going to continue, or does it look like it's just going up briefly and then pulling back? Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll back over here. So, right now it looks like it could still be going higher, but maybe it gets rejected around 61, then pulls back to this downtrend. And then that's a great time if it's finding support here to then reaccumulate or, buy back any shares that were trimmed up here. And that is basically, going from up here, current price, down to where it might be at the trend line, that's 20% to the downside. So trimming a little bit up here, let's say you trim, I'm doing the math on this. If you trim 8 shares, you could then buy back with the same money 10 shares down here. Just simple math, 80, 100, whatever, 20% more at that lower level. So, maybe that's something to consider. But I do think that it could be testing 61.35-ish, right around there. But yeah, congrats on the big move from last week. I didn't expect it to go up that quickly as I had drawn the box out here, but that's also to suggest that, price could be coming back down, by December, maybe coming back to the downtrend. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Super cool chart. I'm really excited about what happened. So congrats to you. And let's see, I'm just catching up on the, yes, and I've actually, so JC Trading Insights, I've been meaning to do a sound follow-up video. I keep a little calendar of all of the tickers that I go over, and the ones that get at least 100 views, I try to do follow-ups on. Or, maybe they're just ones that I'm interested in, even if they don't get that many views. Sound is one of them that's gotten a number of views. So I would like to do a follow-up. So maybe I'll do that this week, but I could definitely check it out here. And RM, I'm glad that you agree that, I think one of the toughest things about trading, it's there are different, part of it is very individual. Everybody manages their emotions differently. Everybody manages their finances differently, manages stress, fear, risk, all that stuff, panic. The thing that's so tough is that when things go up, that euphoria, we fall in love, the dopamine of the numbers going up. My account balance is going up. And we want that to continue. So we don't want to sell. And one thing that I've been doing with options, and I've had some successes with, I'd say majority successes with them over the past couple months using unusual whales, but I've also learned some tough lessons. But one of the things that I've noticed is that, stocks will or options, I should say, will go up, about 20% and then come back down. Go up 20% and then come back down. And so I've tried to get in the habit of like rinsing and repeating with those, and then maybe it doesn't go back up. And then it's like, okay, but then I'm risking less because I had already taken some profit, so it's not as big of a deal. And I just trade one contract at a time, or at least that's my plan, my goal. But then inevitably, some of them also run. And so whether that's because I sold at 20% and then it continues higher, or I sell at 20% and then it doesn't dip back down to my prior price. Maybe it's just a couple pennies above it, doesn't get a fill, and then it goes up. And I've seen multiple stocks, one being GameStop, one being Neo, that I kind of got left behind on them. One might have been Chewy as well. But, it's like the times that I took 20% profit, and multiple times, it's like, okay, there's 20%, there's another 20, so that's 40. This is great. And this is just over the course of a couple days. But then when it goes up 100% and I'm not holding, it's like, oh man, it's just like so painful. But the reality is, whenever we sell, it's always going to go higher than the price that we sell at, because otherwise it wouldn't fill. And, if we don't sell, then there's this scenario when it doesn't go up 100%, or it doesn't even go up 20% and it goes back down to below that average. And, it's all about managing risk, taking that off the table, and recognizing that whenever anybody sells, there's going to be that pain of, I could have made more money. And I mean, you could look at any chart. Like, let's look at the LEU chart. If I had bought when I was first introduced to this last Sunday, I would have made 28%. But would I have held for this entire thing? Maybe. I don't know. Are there options for this? There are options for this. Would I have swung a contract to make some... Oh, wait. I put up the options table and then I looked at my screen and it wasn't popping up. So I was like, oh my God, has the screen been frozen this whole time? Sometimes it's frozen. It's very embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, it's, you're looking at charts, we can look at them and be like, oh, the bottom's in, I'm going to get in and ride it up. Or we can look at them and say, oh, I missed out on all this upside. That's what it is. It's always looking at charts of, oh, I could have made money had I been in this, or I could have avoided losing money had I exited. And so I think it's just always a good idea to take risk off the table when things go up, like above 10%, really. I mean, and do that by trimming. That's what I found works for me. I mean, it might be different for you, like whatever works. But, and it's also like super boring. Like, because it's like, oh, I took 10% of my position off the table at a 20% gain. It's very boring. It's not very exciting, but I think it's a really nice way to lower the risk. And then if it does pull back, it's like, okay, I'm going to put that 10% back in, or it keeps running. Okay, well, now I'll trim another 10% of my position at the next level that stands out to me. So, yeah, so always something good to consider. And yeah, so hopefully, what I'm talking about, you guys can relate to, and hopefully it's helpful. But it's no matter what, we're always going to not buy the lows. We're not going to sell the highs. But the key factor to like being a successful trader, if you want to be an investor, ignore me. But if you want to be a trader, if you want to capitalize on these moves to the upside, the only way you're going to be successful is if you do take profit, and it's never going to be at the top. There are ways that you can identify levels, like this top over here, 50, right around 52. That might have been a good one to trim a little bit. It's above that now, so forget about 52 or 57, 58. And then the next one I would think is, actually, where it's at right now. Let's see, I just got to get the cursor lined up. It's kind of with these tops over here. So, it's not surprising that it stopped there a little bit, but I do think that it could get up to 61 and maybe form a double top there. I do feel like a pullback is on the table just because MACD looks way up there, RSI above 80. And also, as it is going higher, closed at a higher close. volume seems like it's fading, and maybe that's just because it's Friday. But also another factor too, I posted this on the channel, the VIX went up 10% on Friday. So I'm very curious to see how that opens tomorrow. I'm really excited about this week. I think there might be volatility, whether that's to the upside or downside. I'm thinking both. So, buckle up. But anyways, I need to get on to, it's funny, if people request a lot of stuff, I'll go over a lot of stuff. People don't request a lot of stuff, I'll ramble and go on these tangents, but hopefully helpful, hopefully informative. And now I will go over SoundHound. And then I should also note too, Jared mentioned GSIW or RELI. Let me know which one you'd like me to go over, and I'd be happy to go over it. But I will for now go over sound. And so, wow, I need to take a step back and I need to clean up this chart a little bit. So, I think one thing that's, the way that I'll clean this up, I'm just going to delete some of these levels, the ones that were not really important, then we can kind of evaluate how this retracement, map this out. And so here, basically, I want to take off all of the levels other than the 786 because we pulled back to just below that. And, the low, the high, actually, yeah, I'll take both of those off, the 0 and then also the, actually, maybe leaving the 1618 on there is interesting because that will be up a little bit higher. So yeah, there's that. And I might make that one, I'll do a light blue. I just find it a little bit easier to see with the black background. And then we have this other retracement down here. We went up to the 100%. Wait, actually, oh no, for this, I can omit the 1618 because that will be to the downside, and that's probably not helpful where we're at right now. This one, we did a full retracement up to the top there at 596, went past it, and so this one would be useful to have the 1618 on it. So I will add that, and since we have pulled back some, let's see, I'll probably leave the 0% on there as well, just to keep it on our minds. Got the 100%, and then I'm just going to change this to 1618, and maybe there's something that stands out to the upside. It's at 730, right around there. And so, okay, so we got this mapped out a little bit. And another thing I think is really cool is, so this pulled back to right around the 786 here, then it ran up more than 100% retracement to the upside. And then from that, it pulled back again to this 786. So this is like, buy at the bottom here if you're, fortunate enough. Then who knows, this is going to be the top, but then, well, actually, I mean, looking at this, let's say there's no position, but I think it's going to move up higher. This might have been, options might have been a useful thing to look at for this, looking into unusual whales. That's something I'm going to try to be incorporating into the channel more as I get more and more familiar with it. But it's like a very, there's so much data with that platform, with that tool that, I'm still learning how to use it and trying to streamline how to use it as a guide. I did include some really cool stuff on Rivian last night in last night's video. So I would, if you're interested in Rivian, I'd recommend checking that out. I think Rivian did bottom at 11, which I was wanting it to pull back to, but I think it might be going up from where it's at now. So I think it's really cool. But anyways, yeah, this, you see this move up and then you do the retracement. Let's say worst case scenario, it's coming back to the 786. I'm going to buy that. And then you buy at that level, it's down for a couple of weeks. But then over the course of, a month, you establish a position there. Well, I guess here, establish a position right when it hits that first wick below that level, and then getting up to the 100%. That's a 50% swing over the course of 3 weeks. So that's a pretty nice trade using those Fibonacci levels as guides. But also, good to note not to get greedy like this going up to the 1618 didn't happen. Pulls back to the 786, not a full retracement. So this, we can draw a trend line here that might be informative. And so this low, I'm just going to make sure, I think it's important for this. The low is 394. I'm just going to make sure that's correct. 394 and 382. So that's good. I'm just going to make that line a little bit thicker. And so we didn't bounce to that. I could see price coming down to there, maybe around 420, 422. Seems like it's a possibility. But let's see. So we've got this big move up, and I think from that we can kind of just do one more retracement and kind of use this as a guide for what was the high there? That was 645. Yeah, okay. So, and now I'm going to add the other levels back in, so we have a little bit more of a picture here. And so I don't need the 100%. I've already got that mapped out. The 0%, I'll leave that up there, and then let's just kind of, so let's see, I feel like the 382 has probably been some resistance right around there. I don't think the 236 is important to add. So this level acted as resistance on that bounce, which I could, maybe actually, I think it's interesting to point out, but I could do another retracement from the top here to the bottom here to then get an idea of the retracements here. But maybe I'll just leave that up for the time being. This 50% served as resistance over here, so some nice bounces there, respecting those levels. The 618, the golden pocket here. I mean, we're trading above that now, but I feel like, it just seems like it's going to be going lower in my view. Oh, the 786 there. So, maybe this is interesting. I feel like, it's important what happens over the next couple days, in my view, because what we've had here is, this move to the upside, and then we get a pullback to the 786 and or lower, forming this uptrend, and then we bounce up to the 382, then we pull back. So this, let's see, from this, bounce up to the 382, come back to the 786, and we go up to the 50%. So now, I'm going to forget about the golden pocket. 618, we're lower than that. Golden pocket, I guess we're in there. So, this makes me think that, if we get a close or start getting multiple closes below 474, that this is not respecting these fib levels anymore, and that these bounces, they're going to lower highs relative to this Fibonacci, they're going to higher lows. But then if this breaks 474, it's likely to pull down to the 786. Maybe it forms a double bottom there around 438, but maybe it continues lower. And so I could see that happening with it pulling back to, like I said, right around 420. Or maybe, it takes its time coming down to 438, 440, and that finds support over here. This would be at the beginning of December. So, it can take a while for this to, bore people out of their positions. And so, that's what I would think, but I might, since I am this, really, I think I just want to have the 786 on there, and I will then do a retracement from the top here to the bottom here, and maybe that would be informative on some, so it's just retracement after retracement. Then maybe I'll take a step back and see which of these levels makes sense. So making sure that's right, 395, 645, and the proportions, I feel like that probably went up to maybe the 618. Yeah, so that 618 was resistance. And then, from this, so it moved up to there. Maybe I should change the color of this so we're not confusing it with this line here. But, found support there at the 786. And then, let's see, the 50%, kind of got to that, almost got to that. But, yeah, I think it's kind of like closing in, and I think it might be breaking down. And I might, let's see, I'm just going to gray out these retracements because I feel like, we kind of got that picture on there, but I don't want to delete them necessarily. I might want to have them for reference. And so from this, though, what can we see? Maybe a downtrend, and maybe we broke out of it. So maybe this would suggest that it's leaning more towards the bullish side. That could be, but I don't know how significant that is. And that is from a top of 1025 to 645. So that is correct, but I need to 645 is the high here. What is going on? 645. These both had the highs of 645. Wait a second. This is not giving me the right number. 645 here, 645 on both of those days. Okay. And so, I could put that pivot point on either of those days. I'm choosing to go the further out one. That gives it more wiggle room here. So, yeah, I feel like this does look like a breakout, but it seems like it's kind of faded, and I think it could be pulling back to maybe to test, like 435. Or let's see, this is on the daily. I think the retracement that I want to do is this little one here. I'm just going to cough. Muted myself, so hopefully that wasn't too bad. Pulling back to the 382, below that now, 50%. I'd say I'd look for it to hold, if it does pull back more, I'd look for it to hold $4.64. That's the 618, so it seems like a likely level to have a retracement to, and that retracement to represent a bottom or near bottom. And that also corresponds with multiple wicks over here. That would be suggesting support. And actually, no, over here too. We go back in time with this cursor. We've got these candles that cross that level. These candles and the wicks up to that level here are really getting to that. So I could definitely see, maybe I'll just draw a box around it. So like you got all this price action here. Below that would be acting as support. And so, like all of this seems like that could be a nice floor right around there. So I'd say a pullback to 464, but maybe like if I were to be establishing a position in this, I would think, that would be, maybe I'm wrong. So maybe it's a good time to get, especially if it's up 1% in the after hours. From Friday. But so maybe like good to have a quarter of position here. If it comes down to 464, get another quarter, or to get 3/4 of a position in total. And then if that doesn't hold, then maybe 435, like doing a double bottom here, is kind of how I would look for this. But I do think that this could take its time coming down to, this white uptrend. And that would be like, maybe like with this double top here, that would correspond with right around the end of November, the beginning of December. So maybe that is a good time to really start to establish something if it start going higher. So hopefully that's helpful. And let's see. ACHR, I see I've got that request. I believe that's a request. So JC Trading did ask some specific questions about sound. This stock has been going down recently and no sign of reversal yet. Thanks. So I feel like, not to say that this is anything like AMC, maybe that's probably a bad comparison. It's been bleeding a lot. But, looking at AMC, this had a big up move and it's just been consolidating here, boring the hell out of people. And so that could be what's happening here, big move to the upside and then just consolidating here, boring people out of their positions. And then maybe by like December, it starts to form a bottom with this uptrend based on these two pivot points. So, you could draw it on your own charts if you want to keep an eye on it. So that's based on the low from July 1st, which was 382, as well as the low from, that's got to be August 5th, when there was a gap down in the markets and then a bounce. So that low of August 5th, which was, let's see, $3.94. So I think that's a good level to keep an eye on. But, of course, I could be wrong with this. It's quite possible this is a bull flag. But just with all of these red candles, big wick to the upside here and here, I feel like it seems unlikely that that is a bull flag, especially it's just been putting in, lower highs here. I mean, maybe it's putting in a wedge, but that would be breaking to the upside. But, I mean, since it's broken out of this bigger picture wedge, that's the move, and now I think it's fading. MACD looks like it's potentially going to be rolling over to red. RSI is right around 50, and it seems like it's moving in the direction of going back down to 30. So it might be, I feel like, at least a month maybe of it boring people. So that's what I would be prepared for, but also sometimes, I mean, you could see my recent plug and rocket lab videos. Sometimes I'm completely wrong on the calls, so take it with a grain of salt. And I think with that, I think it was Rocket Lab, I was waiting for 550 and it came down to 569. I think it's good, to have a plan to wait, or I would have a plan to wait with this, but I think it's also good to have a plan for if you're wrong. And so maybe the bottom's here now. And so maybe establishing a small position or, just recognizing it might not be the best time to aggressively add, but to have something to hold in case you're wrong, in case it does go higher. Or by you, I mean me. By you, I mean retail. Nobody in particular. But yeah, so it's a cool chart. And so, yeah, I'm just going to catch up on... okay, so RM mentioned ACHR, Archer Aviation. I feel like I used to trade them when they were a CCIX or some kind of ticker like that. They were a SPAC. I feel like it's a familiar name, but not a familiar ticker for me. I'll definitely go over them. And then NASCAR, what's up? RELI being pushed by Moon Market in his weekend video at all-time lows with 1.2 million shares outstanding. So yeah, maybe this is a good one if you guys are into squeeze plays, so I'll definitely look over that. Wow, low float scary as ARM's response. Rise fast, fall faster with that low of a float. And then JC Trading saying, thanks. It is frustrating to hold the stock as it is just not going anywhere. Yeah, I mean, that's... I feel like especially with stuff like this, good to avoid options. And with that, I might just take a quick peek over at Unusual Whales to... I'm just going to type in sound here and see if there's anything. So, the contracts that have had the most volume... have been calls. They're not dated too far out into the future. And they're not super bullish because they're kind of like 50%, 50-50 for green, which is ask or buys. Red is bids or sells. Now, the one thing that stands out to me, though, is this January 17th one, because that's more than, that's months into the future. And that's 80% on the ask side, 83%. So that seems like it's a little bit interesting. But it's also this is 38,000. So that's not nothing. But yeah, and if we look at the open interest, so what was the volume traded? It just doesn't have too much volume, but this is a $5 call. And yeah, the NPP is the net put premium has been going up. The net call premium is the green, and that's been not too great, whereas the price has been kind of going down, which is in yellow. And so, yeah, with price being below $5, this is it's not a lot of premium on this contract. And so I think that's like a pretty important thing to be paying attention to, because 60,000, for me, like 60,000 on one play, that's a lot of money. Even overall, that's a lot of money for me. But it's not relative to me. This is like relative to the market. So 60,000, that's not a lot. Hundreds of thousands, that's getting into a lot. But I think, when you see a lot of money behind stuff, that's getting into like millions of dollars. And so like that's when it's like, okay, now is the time for the move. And, so nothing going on really with sound. And so, yeah, I mean, I think any options right now, it would just be doing this boring sideways action. So it might be good to just, I don't know, like I do limit orders. That's how I trade. Maybe it's good to place some limit orders, and if they fill, if it does dip more, then it's like, okay, get the average down and otherwise kind of ignore it. So you don't get too bored. And yeah, I don't know. And Saul, what's up? I will add Blink as well. I got some to catch up on, so I got to focus a little bit. But before I focus, I'm going to take a sip here. And I'm actually pretty curious to look at Blink because I typically get requests to go over it, but I haven't in a while. This guy Ben is always was always requesting it, but he hasn't been over the past month. It's kind of been, or maybe the past couple weeks. But yeah, so first I'll go over Archer and then REL and then Blink. Okay, so Archer, $3. Yeah, so I am curious. I think like I had gotten this back in like, there's probably some, actually, I don't know. When did this? Yeah, 20. So I think I was like interested in it over here. Maybe, yeah, this is funny. You can see some drawings that I did, which actually, that is a breakout. But then it dropped off the cliff after a month later. So yeah, I'm just going to go back and just out of curiosity, I'm going to see, what had I drawn here? Yeah, so it's like, okay, I want to keep an eye on that line. And then if it breaks out, buy it. And it's like, okay. And then it comes back. It's like, man, that's stupid. And then, nope, but that was a good move. That, let's see. I'm pretty sure I lost money trading this. That's a 1% move though. So anyways, I am going to trash all of my drawings that might be up here. And I will skip forward to the future. So yeah, let's look at this. Let's think about this one. So let's see. Before I do any Fibonacci's, I want to see if there's some trend lines that I can draw. There might actually be some interesting ones. And, maybe I don't like how in Webull they extend far out into, for infinity. But this looks like it's in a little bit of a channel. And yeah, it's kind of in the lower half of that. And just out of curiosity, does this intersect with anything over here? Not really. And so this is on the daily time frame. Just thinking about this. Maybe it's better for me to go from this pivot point. And then that kind of nicely encapsulates that. And I might also, not Fibonacci, I might also do trend channel. I kind of like these. So following that gap up, I'm just going to draw it from there. And then I'll just do it to the specific day from Friday. So that kind of matches. And so I might leave that up there just to have something to complement, what we got going on there. And so this, to me, yeah, I mean, this a little bit, reminds me of the Unity software chart in that, this was in a channel going back to 2023. So a little over a year ago. Unity software has been in this channel going back to 2022, I guess. And so, it's resided in there a little while. And let's see. I was looking at Archer. See, this is kind of like a double top here, pull back. I wonder if there's something with what's it called? The patterns. What are those called? I didn't study them. What cycles are those called? There's accumulation, distribution. I forget. But yeah. So let's see. I'm just going to kind of compare this to over here. Yeah, so there's kind of like a double top here. A lower bounce there. Double top, lower bounce. And not that I think that these have to be similar or anything, but it's like double top, pull up, and then, it's started to make this. I'm very curious about with Unity, if this is a left shoulder, this is a head, and then like by like mid 2025, I wonder if it'll be around 40, retesting around 45 after testing it up here or something. I don't know. But anyways, Archer. Let's see. See, I'm just trying to think. Like, I wonder. This has not happened yet and probably will not happen. But let's see. This is, let's say this is a neckline. And maybe we see it do something like actually, I don't know, because this would be pretty ugly. Well, actually, maybe this is not the neckline. Maybe the neckline would be the top of that channel. So shoulder here, head that maybe comes down to, yeah, I mean, I could see this coming down lower. Like, but from where it's at, it does have potential to get to the top of the channel, which is like a 40+% move to the upside. But with that being said, to get to the bottom of the channel, that's about a 40% move to the downside. So it's kind of in the mid zone. So risky in that sense. But let's see if there's a retracement I can do from the low here up to the high. And maybe we're at the 786. And maybe that's appealing. And so this high is, man, 547. This low is $3. 547, $3, no pennies. And I want to add this. And I suspect we're lower than it. Yes, much lower. Oh, yeah, I mean, we formed a double bottom. We double bottomed. So actually, yeah, with that being said, okay, so this is not something I plan on trading or anything. So I'm just going to kind of share what I would do if I were to trade this based on needing to get better at things like this. So I view this chart as there's potentially a double bottom formed here at $3 a share. Okay, so I think that makes sense. And we have a dip below that level to 282.1. And so if I were to assume that this is a double bottom, I would say that's great because I have, maybe 50% upside to the top of that channel, and that's great. But like I said, I have about a 40% risk to the downside, or whatever percentage that is, 35, whatever. I don't want to take a 35% loss. I want a 50% gain. Would I, though, settle for a dip to 282? And so what I would look for, or what I would do is if I were to participate in this, and actually maybe it is something fun to do, but I think it's going to be kind of a volatile week, so I don't know. This did just cross below 30 a couple days ago, 29.01 in the RSI. It does look like it's starting to flip up in the momentum. MACD looks like it just barely flipped green. So what I would do if I were to partake in this is I would establish a position here because I don't have a position, but I would have a stop loss at 282 or maybe 280. If it goes down below that level, maybe it's the bottom, maybe it wicks below, stops people out. But that would be at most an 8% loss. And so that's, or I guess I shouldn't say at most, that could be at most a 9% loss. So that's how I would play it. And then maybe I'd, trim on the way up. Have a large enough position so that I can trim on the way up to a 50% gain. But then small enough so if I took a 9 or let's say 10% loss, I'd be able to walk away from it. I'd be able to survive. So that's what I think would make most sense for this one. Oh, and then I should also add the 1618 to this just to see where that level is. That should be to the downside. And that's too far down. I don't think that seems feasible. 150. I mean, it could, but if that was corresponding with the channel, that would be in January. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that's helpful. I think it's a really cool chart. And I think, like, I don't typically get into positions where it's like, I think it's going up 50%, but it could go down 35. And if it does go down 35, I want to stop out at 10. But that seems like a clear level. Another thing I could probably do is like do a downtrend along here, but you don't want to be just trading a downtrend. Oh, well, one thing, speaking of downtrends, I could do that on the top and to see maybe that it's broken out or something. I don't know. This is kind of arbitrary because it hasn't had too many touches or anything. So I think this is like a hopium line that it broke out. But yeah, very cool chart. I have not looked at it, and I am going to have to, let's see, add to watch list for the DGen watch list. And I'm going to leave it on the request list because I am kind of, for me personally, just to kind of like test out this idea of like using stop loss, like having a stop loss right when an order's placed. I might, let's say, buy one share at $3.07, not risking much, not going to make a lot, but just kind of exercising that stop loss. And, maybe I lose some, maybe I make 50%, which is $1.50, and that's great. So yeah, very cool. And then let's see. I see SoFi on the list. Yeah, no, I didn't go over SoFi. That's just one that I'm really interested in. I don't have a position in it. I'm still leaning more on the I think it's going down more side, but I don't have I had some puts. I sold them, and by had puts, I bought an individual put, swung it, bought another individual, swung it. Because I'm not a big fish, and if I get too heavily into options, I don't manage them well. I'm still learning how to manage that. But yeah, RELI, I will go over them now. Not looked at them before. Yeah, market cap 2.7 million. So I think it was 1.2 million shares outstanding. So right here. So add this to the DGen Ed list. Yeah, and so this, I feel like it's a purely squeeze play. This was a 1-for-15 reverse split back in February of 2023. More recently, at the beginning of July, they had a 1-for-17. Super odd. I don't like that. I'm sorry for anybody whose share count got all screwed up because of that. Why not just do 1-for-20? And then back here, reverse split 100 for 85.74. That's kind of weird. Yeah, so thinking about this though, I mean, I don't know that we can assume that the bottom's in, but the bottom was in here before that big move up. So I'm going to do a retracement from there, which is 348.7 up to 1853. And I will add some levels to that. let's see, that one. And yeah, let's not get greedy. I'll just do that one. That which would correspond with a gap fill too. So that's interesting. And the 1618 is at a negative price. So we can disregard that one. So I'm going to delete that here. Okay, so from this, we've done more than a full retracement. Let's say hypothetically, hopefully, the bottom's in. And so I'm just going to do another retracement coming down to 2123. Just thinking about what are some levels to the upside that seem reasonable. Don't want to be greedy. We're not going all the way up there. Okay, and so this one I'm going to make light blue, so it's soothing. And so yeah, maybe this is kind of forming a double bottom. I don't know if this squeezes, if this is something, I'm not suggesting that it will. I think that what I would look for is for this to start moving. RSI continues to go down. Here it's at 38.75, then 34.48, 32.44, 30.48. Now, 30. Now or on Friday, it was 29.49. It just continues to go lower. And so what I would look for is the RSI to be higher than the previous day. So I'd wait for tomorrow's close. And if the RSI is above 29.49, maybe that's a signal that this is going to reverse. But if we look at the MACD here, it's been negative. It's coming down. But the thing that maybe suggests that the bottom could be in is that there's not much volume being traded. And it does seem like it's flattening out. So, yeah, I mean, this going up to, what's this? The 786 from this retracement is at $6.71. That is a pretty nice swing from current price, or right around current price. I'm not going to get it exact. There, I got it exact. To up to that level, that's a 200% swing. But maybe it doesn't go up that high. Maybe it, I think things like that, it's like, oh, there's a gap fill there. There's also a gap fill up here too. Or a gap that needs to be filled up there. But like this 200% kind of like round number, maybe people are like waiting for it to get up there to sell, but then they start selling a little bit early. So yeah, I mean, I feel like 100% swing is nice if this squeezes. So I think it's good to have a plan. If one is to swing this, if one is to partake in whatever squeeze might happen here, maybe it's something like this, which was a almost 400% move to the upside. Good to have a plan to trim at levels on the way up, because this did not offer many opportunities to trim on the way down. It just pulled back down, So yeah, of the two that I just recently looked at, this one and Archer, I'm intrigued by Archer because of that stop loss level. But this is coming so low. I guess, like a stop loss could be 212 or 210 based on the low here, just going a little bit lower. But yeah, so, hopefully that's helpful. But I think that it sounds like this could be squeezing, but I don't personally partake in stuff like that, or at least not intentionally or deliberately. Yeah, so hopefully that's interesting. And so, yes, SoFi is up here. I will definitely look at laser as well. Luminar. Yeah, and so a lot of the tickers that I had up here when I started the stream, they're actually just stocks that I hold, so I'm interested in them. And a bitter one for me is NEO. I tend to exit positions by selling covered calls, and when they fill or they close in the money, that's when I exit. And my average was above 450. This is embarrassing. Or my average was below 450, but I sold a covered call at 450 and 5, and it filled, I think this was, let's see. Yeah, this was a Friday at 5, like it closed and then it dipped below 5, so I could have bought back some of those shares, but I didn't. And then kind of until too late, I recognized, oh, that's a bull flag. It's going higher. And I swung a couple calls, but I was practicing using stop losses. Stop loss was above my average, so no big deal, but I could have made 100% on those contracts, or that one contract I would have been holding if I was holding. And then I recognized though, well, maybe it doesn't pull back to my level again to get a refill. So I just bought a couple shares. I should have been more aggressive with it. But yeah, so I mean, I have a buy for NEO at 560 because that kind of corresponds with like a retest of this purple line. But one thing, somebody mentioned in a comment, I can draw a downtrend on this, which is right here, which does not look too useful. But if I switch the y-axis to the logarithmic and I look at the pivot point, they had mentioned February from 2021, but I actually found this slightly higher high here that does correspond with the high from February of 2021. And then the other pivot point being the high from over here, 2023, that's in August. And that suggests that the NEO price could be going up to, over here, up to, $8 a share, right around there. And so I think that there's definitely a lot of upside with this. That's part of it. You trim or you sell it, taking some profit. And I had just been accumulating and holding NEO for too long of a time. I had a low enough average, but it just got to the time where I wasn't too convicted in it. But now I think it's like a good time to be holding Chinese stocks. Like I think the bottom's in, they're breaking out. But I think that this could be pulling back to that purple line. And so that's when I would get more aggressive. And even though like my average is a little bit less than 6 right now, but just a couple shares, I'll probably be accumulating more, probably on a daily basis, just like add one share. So, nothing crazy. I'm not a big fish. But that's just because, I'm late and I don't want to be chasing, but I do want to participate. And I didn't with the call, unfortunately. But like this, I think it could be going up to 8. So accumulating at 650, even if that's raising my average, I think that's fine. But anyways, that was not my intention to go over that. My intention was to go over Blink, which I do not hold any of, but I do hold some charge point. And so this, yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to remove some of the clutter. This, I only need one level, or I guess 2 levels on that. And that is going to be the 100% and the 1618. And let's see, this one here. Yep, this, another one, there's a bottom there. I can add the 0 to that. I can get rid of that 236, don't think I need it. And so this, Blink seems like there's a lot of resistance up ahead and that it's testing some right now. And so going over those levels, I mean, you see it from here. I've got the retracement from the low of July 2nd going up to the high of July 16th, which was 375. And then the day after it was a fraction of a penny lower high. So that's the correct high right there. Got that 1618 at 186 about. And then the low over here was 189. So those levels kind of match up. And then kind of coincident with them is this thicker white downtrend here, which is based on, and maybe you could take this with a grain of salt, because, there's some higher peaks, but that is based on the high from November 16th and the high of February 15th. So drawing that downtrend, that seems to converge with those other two levels. I think there's a lot of overhead resistance that was also recently resistance here. And look at how beautifully, the wick from September 18th kissed that downtrend, got rejected, pulled back down. And then this other downtrend that I have here, what is that based on? I feel like I got to color that one light blue just so it stands out a little bit. So that is based on actually it looks like it's the close, not the low, of March 22nd over here. And then that kind of, I guess I don't have it intersecting or pivoting from any of these levels, although I could do it from the low from April 23rd, but we got some consolidation above there. The other pivot point looks like it was from over here. That was the low from August 12th. Got a bounce from there. And that's where price is currently trading at. And so with this, maybe there's something here with an uptrend, because this so far is a higher low. And so all this stuff, the reason why I try to be specific with numbers and dates and stuff is so if you guys want to, you can put it on your own chart so you can monitor it and to see if this level holds up. But this is based on the low from September 9th, 153, and then the low, which was also the close on September 25th. Also, that's kind of a bearish thing to be closing at a low. And that's a bearish engulfing candle of the prior two trading days. This suggests indecision, doji there. This inverted hammer candle, price was able to get above and close above this. So I think that's good. But there's a big wick to the upside that suggests there aren't enough buyers to really hold the price up. But it is above that downtrend. So I think there is some hope there. If it does pull back some, though, I would monitor this uptrend. Maybe a pullback to like 170 as far as a close goes. If it goes lower than that but closes at about 170, I think that could be respecting this uptrend. But at the same time, that is an uptrend. And so that price is going to be going higher, that level. So that's what I would look for. But ultimately, I think there's just like a cluster of resistance levels here. And and also too, this is with the MACD being green. The RSI is, and also, let's see, the RSI is going up. So, maybe the upward momentum continue. That's what I would look for. That's what I'd be hopeful for Monday, that there's a little bit of a burst. But with this large amount of volume, that's the highest amount of volume since August 8th, which was a gap down day. So the highest amount of volume was when this was trading lower. People were dumping it, And now we're lower than that. And that surge in volume only got a move up. Well, I guess you got a 4% move up, but let's see. But just like from open to close, that's only like about a 2% move. So I would think with that much volume, it would go up much higher, pull back. So I think it looks fairly discouraging. I think it's good to be cautious with. I would definitely be monitoring this uptrend. And with that, since I haven't drawn one, I will do a Fibonacci here. And I'm just going to add some levels to that. I want downside levels, so I can omit those. See, that looks like the 50% is right around 175. I like it to hold that. But then coming down to like around 170, that's a 618. So maybe that could be happening. But if you get closes below 160, I think 162, 153, I think it could be coming down there. And so like for me, I don't have any blank, but the way that I like to play stuff like is if I'm holding shares I don't want to sell, I'm fine to hold long term. If I have enough shares where I'm like I don't really need to buy that aggressively, I just be like, okay, I'll wait. If it goes back to 153, I'll add a little bit to my position and then I'll reevaluate because I don't want to chase a falling knife and I don't want to buy the prior low if we're just putting in new lows. I'd rather buy that new low. And so kind of like what I'll just share what I'm doing with ChargePoint because I think I have a buy order placed to nibble if it goes down. Okay, yeah, and so that's like the prior low was 121, I believe. And so I have a buy for a very small position, 10 shares, nothing big, at 125, $1.25. And my thought process with that is maybe it dips. It's trading at 137 right now. I could pull it up. I'll just do up the EV charging stocks up here. But yeah, like with ChargePoint, my thesis is kind of like the lowest low, 52-week low, I believe all-time low is 121. My thesis is if it goes to 121 and my order gets filled, it's probably going lower and I'm chasing a falling knife. And so what I want, my hopium, is that this pulls back to a lower price so I can get more shares. Again, not a huge buy. And part of the reason why it's not a huge buy is because I have tons of shares of ChargePoint, one of my largest positions as far as shares go. And so kind of like my thesis is that we have since put in higher lows, 121, 123. Given that's 2 cents, I would want there to be a close or a dip to no lower than 125. And so if it does dip to 125, maybe I buy that bottom, like buying it at 123 here. Maybe it doesn't fill because of that and it bounces. That's great. I'm happy if the bottom's in. But if it breaks lower than 125, then it's putting in a lower low, I assume, or maybe a double bottom at 123. But then I would think that it's probably going to be testing 121, hitting new lows. And then I could maybe buy it like $1 a share. And so I'd wait for that. And so that's the reason why I have the buy at 125, not 121, because I want it to put in higher lows. And so that's like reflected in my buy. That my thesis is that it will put in higher lows. But if it doesn't, then I'll reevaluate. And buying at 121, then I might be like, oh, there's a new low of 120, I'll buy that. Oh, there's a new low of 119, I'll buy that. And then it just keeps going. And then it goes down to $1 a share. And I'm like, I spent all my money at 119. So I think that's kind of like a good way to do that. And so maybe monitor this trend line. And maybe, if it breaks that, then have a buy for, a little bit, at 150 if it goes down, 155, 2 cents above this low. If it goes down to that, then great, add a little bit and then reevaluate. And that is putting in a higher low, so maybe that's the bottom. But if it goes to 153 or 150, then, that's potentially chasing a falling knife. But yeah, this trend line I think is pretty important. And 170, I would not want to see any closes below 170 at this point. So hopefully that's helpful. And then the next one is SoFi. So I'm going to switch back to, let's see, the request list, and I'll pull up SoFi. And so yeah, my thesis, and I feel like I've been fairly transparent about it, or maybe I've just mentioned that I think that it's probably putting in a top here. I ended up being right. I bought a couple puts, maybe 3 puts at different times. It's possible I had 2 different puts, different strikes, different expirations at the same time, but I've since sold them. And so my thoughts with SoFi are that it's probably coming down to $7 a share. But I don't think it's going to do that in a straight line. And I think that what we're seeing now is a little bit of a bounce. And so I have it on my phone. I'll share what I plan on doing with it. Let's see. And, it's really like I have a limit order buy for a put that has not yet been filled. And if it does get filled, that would be because price goes up a little bit. But I think it would ultimately be getting rejected and then coming back down. I think it's, going to be bouncing. And yeah, and like here, I think I did talk about this. Higher highs in the price. Yeah, I did talk about this in the last video. And that was a pretty popular one. And then we have lower highs in the RSI. And so this high was 65.51. What was the high over here? 65.23. Basically flat, but lower. That's bearish divergence. So I feel like with that and it being multiple peaks, and granted, this is a higher high, so like the slope of this trend line would have to shift, and this is effectively flat. But that just seems to me like this is, we couldn't get up to fill this gap, and just above that, it looks like there's this downtrend that's potentially resistance. So I feel like it's pulling back and could be finding like a double bottom here. Maybe it comes back to 6 or to fill this gap down here at like 541. I'm going to make this dash line because I like unfilled gaps as dash lines. I just think that's kind of a nice style. But yeah, I think that's too much of a bear thesis and things. I think you're going to be wasting time waiting for that. We do see here that, the MACD seems like it's kind of a lagging indicator. But yeah, anyways, I'll pull up what I plan on doing with SoFi. Just looking at my orders for the week. Okay, so I have a $8 strike put for November 15th, a buy at 69 cents because I like to have fun. And so if we look at the options table here, look at puts. I don't know what this thing means. I don't think I'm holding any SoFi position right now. And it wouldn't say here anyways because I'm not logged in. But anyways, November 15th, I don't know if you can see that there. It's kind of a little small. But these are puts. November 15th expiration. And so the $8 strike is what I'm interested in. And the buy for that is 71 cents. So I effectively, really want to buy this. But I want it just a tiny bit cheaper. And the reason why I have it 2 cents lower is not because I'm an idiot. But because if we look at theta, it's because I'm an idiot. I thought theta would be negative 2 cents, but it's negative 0.7 cents. So, in that argument, I would think that this could fill at 70 cents. But I'm an idiot, so I'm going to place my order at 69 cents. November 15th, so I got more than a month. And I'd probably just swing it for 20% because I'm still learning options and I don't want to hold them. Maybe it bounces and tests up here again and gets a double top. Maybe it keeps going and I'm completely wrong. But maybe it bounces a little bit and then continues lower. And then maybe it comes down to like 750. But then bounces and then fills this gap. And so that could be like a 20% swing with the options contract. And so that's what I plan on doing with it. And so, yeah, so clearly I have a bias. I think this is going down more. And I think that the dip buy level, the potential bottom is around 70 cents. That corresponds with a retracement to the golden pocket. Although I believe I was waiting for either the golden pocket or the 786 with Rocket Lab. We can look at that. I was waiting for the golden pocket just above it really at 550 and it only pulled back to the 50%. So considering that with SoFi, we've already, this was before getting to that high, but we did already test the level of about $7. And so maybe we test it again, form a double bottom there. If it gets to that, I think that could be a pretty compelling double bottom. One other thing that we can do here, there are a number of other things we could do here. I don't know why I phrased it like that, but we can draw this trend line. And so that could be suggesting that I am being greedy. I am being stubborn with my level of $7 just because it sounds like a whole number. It sounds good. But more realistically, 727, a 50% retracement, because then that's like putting in higher lows, that's stepping up. And yeah, I mean, I could see that happening. And also, maybe there's an interesting thing I could do here with a parallel channel, just connecting these lows and then going up to this high. No, I thought that might intersect with the high here, but it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thesis, is that we'll see some bounces on the way down before we establish a bottom. And since we've recently had, from the low of $6 a share, 601, we've had a move. Oops, I don't want a Fibonacci retracement. I want this. Since we've had a move of about 40%, over 40%, I mean, it could be a higher up move, but I could see a pullback to the 50% at least, or I think that's reasonable. Not necessarily at least, but I think that's a reasonable compromise between the bottom being approximately in, which I don't think that's enough of a pullback, and being greedy with it coming down to 7. Maybe it does come down to 7, but I just think that's potentially greedy. So yeah, I think I'd look for it to be holding 727, the 50% retracement here, as support. And I could do another retracement from the low here up to the top to see if that corresponds with another level there. I gotta color this light blue. 50% retracement, that's between the golden pocket and the 786, which is 713, I believe. 713. Yep, 713 up to like 745, let's say. So yeah, I mean, I think that I'm going to delete that retracement though, just because I think it's getting a little cluttered. But that's what I would think. So like if I was long SoFi, if I had shares and I wanted to get my average down, or I wanted to add, I'd wait for a pullback to at least 750. The low here on the 24th was 758. I think we could be testing 750. Maybe that's a psychological level. We think in quarters, and that as far as placing orders, where do I want to buy the dip? 750. Just do it right there, not 743 or whatever random number. But if that doesn't hold, if 750 doesn't hold, I think 727 or maybe 725 if we think in quarters, and yeah, and there's also a gap here. So I can draw that in. Maybe that's a good level. That's kind of a compromise. The close on the 12th was at 746. And so I'm going to make that blue. And so, yeah, I mean, that's between the 382, which we tested effectively, hitting a low of 758 when that 382 is at 757. That gap, 746, right around 750, psychological level gap. And maybe that could even correspond with, testing this uptrend. And that would be a couple weeks from now. Yeah, a couple weeks from now. A week and a couple days from now. And so I could see that. And so, yeah, like maybe the 50% level at 727, maybe that's being greedy. So I feel like 750 is a good dip buy as far as like averaging down, and with the preparation for it possibly going lower. But like I said, with the put that I'm talking about, that is just a swing from 69-cent premium if it gets filled. So this, if it gets filled at 69 cents, and then swinging that for, 20% profit. So that's 69 cents times 1.2, swing that to 83 cents. So that's really not that exciting. That minus 69 cents. So I'd make $14 on that. That's really not that exciting. But that's really just like me practicing And this SoFi is not really based on unusual whales. That's just based on me getting more comfortable with trading my thesis on this. And, there's quite the possibility that I'm wrong and that this does go higher, it does break higher, and I'm out $69. But I have until November 15th, which is out here where that yellow box is, November 15th. So, I feel like that's totally reasonable to think that this could be trading below $8 a share by November 15th, because it already is. But yeah, maybe that I'm just buying the bottom though, and it goes higher. But I think that's a safe bet that it could be going lower. It hasn't tested enough of these Fibonacci levels, and there's that gap there at 746. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I really like SoFi. But I feel like it's too easy to be too overly bullish on it and then be left holding the bag. And I feel like there's a lot of emotion with it because, like, I've talked about it coming down to 6, and people were very unhappy with that, very unhappy with me. It ended up being correct, rounding that down 1 penny. So I think it's good to not be too emotional with this one, and I feel like I get kind of emotional with it. But my thesis is that it's going down. And anyways, hey Nameless, what's up? I am doing good. I hope you're doing good. And cheers to you. Happy Sunday. Cheers to everybody. Happy Sunday. If that's a good thing, I guess work's starting tomorrow for everybody. I'm finishing a 3-day work weekend. I worked the past 3 days, 12-hour shifts, and there was nothing to do at work, so it was very boring. I watched some videos that I posted onto the channel, so hopefully those are helpful for you. And then, so let's see. And so Nameless, one thing that I'm doing with the streams now is I'm just doing one request at a time. So if you want me to go over one of those, let me know the one that you're most interested in. I'd be happy to look at that. And following whatever one, I also want to look at Fastly because I think that's an interesting chart I was previously going over. But I'm first going to go over Laser Luminar. And so let me know, and I'll go over that before I go over MSOS and cannabis as a whole. Unless you are slow to respond, then I'll go over MSOS first. But first, I need to go over Luminar, which I think I added up here. Yeah. This one's super boring with options. I kind of hate it because of that. But yeah, so I guess I can, so for me, what I plan on doing, I'm a shareholder of Luminar. I sell covered calls. My average is a little bit below $2 a share. So I've been selling covered calls that have strikes of $2 a share. Maybe this squeezes and I get moved out of my position. That's fine with me, or out of portions of my position. That's fine with me. Trimming, taking small profits. That's kind of how I like to trade. I don't think it's going to be going up to $2 a share though, so I feel like those are pretty safe bets just to make a little bit each week on premium or every couple weeks, because the weekly contracts don't really make too much for premium. But so thinking about this, my understanding is that there's probably going to be a reverse split. I think there's a vote on it. I don't think I saw the email on the vote, so I'm not familiar with when that is. But about a reverse split, which is, I think, between, maybe I'm mixing it up with a different stock, but I think right around a 1-for-10 reverse split. I think I'm confusing this with Biora. But I think that this company needs to do a reverse split. And so I don't think that's like a bad thing. They haven't done one. And so I think that that's a totally fine thing. What I plan on doing, or I keep a spreadsheet of trades and levels that I want to buy at. It's possible I don't have an alert, and I should probably just place an alert though, because I don't think I have a buy order. Excuse me, because I don't know about for you guys, but for me, for my brokerage, Webull, if a stock is trading below $1 a share, I can only buy in 100 share increments. I like to dollar cost average in a very slow way. That makes it not as exciting for me to just want to throw down a bunch of money. And so what I plan on doing with Luminar, I have my spreadsheet, is I have noted 69 cents. And so for me, I would buy 100 shares at 69 cents as long as I have $69 in my account on the side. Sometimes I do, usually I do, not always. And so I would assess that then. And so kind of what I had assessed here, very proud of it. I had talked about 74 cents being a potential low based on this retracement. So, we were given that amount of data effectively. If I had known this was the top here at 218 on July 16th, which is my half birthday, by the way. Winter birthdays suck. I don't know if you guys have winter birthdays, but I hate having a winter birthday. So I like my half birthday. But anyways, we had the high there, and so we do this retracement then, and that gets us 74 cents. I've been talking about 74 cents being a bottom, and we got a low of 72.53. So I think that's great. I bought that. I'm proud of that. I bought 100 shares I added to my position 100 shares at 74 cents. My next level down now is 69 cents because I'm an idiot. But I don't have an order placed on that. And let's see, I think I do have an alert at 69 cents. So I'll be alerted if it does go down there. It may not. But I think with a reverse split coming up, I do think that there's probably more downside, and maybe that could trigger a squeeze or some moves to the upside. So I think that's pretty good. But yeah, I'll just draw, from the high of August 7th, connecting to, because there are just wicks up to it, no closes above or opens above, I'm going to connect this to the high of September 17th, which was 101. And so that looks good as far as those levels go. That was 114. Yes. Okay, so yeah, there's this downtrending level. We need to break above that, which would be basically getting above the highs of the past couple days, which was around 96, 97 cents. We need to get multiple closes above 97 cents to suggest that this is a breakout. I think that this is, I'm prepared for this to go lower. And so that's kind of like my risk tolerance with it right now. I've accumulated, it's not my largest position by far. It's not one of my largest positions, but it's gotten to be sizable. And so I don't personally want to add too aggressively. And so if it dips to 69 cents, I'd buy. If it doesn't dip to 69 cents, I'd wait. For me personally, no advice, nothing like that. But as far as my position goes, I'm fine to just hold, and I'm fine to sell covered calls. And if it squeezes up to, let's say, up to $3 a share, and I have my covered calls at $2, I'd be fine trimming not all of my position, but hundreds of shares at $2 or $2.50 or $3 if it does go up to those levels, if I'm forced out of my position, if those contracts close in the money. That's fine, because I've gotten more shares than I initially intended, and so I'm all right with that. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be going lower because there's a reverse split on the table, and with that, there's probably going to be some selling, but that could trigger some dramatic drops could trigger some moves to the upside. So, if it goes to 69, I'd like to get more. If it doesn't, I'm cool to hang out. And one thing I was thinking about while rambling about that is, I guess this stuff down here, yeah, the MACD seems, it's green, but it's not enough to get it above there. The RSI is kind of neutral at 49, right in between 30 and 70. Volume's elevated down here, which is kind of surprising. And it's not going up. So that makes me think, look at this volume here. That's pretty impressive. That makes me think that this is probably going lower because look at all of this volume. Because all of this volume is not able to push it higher. And so that makes me think eventually this is going to dry up. And then when that happens, it's going to drop. Well, when buyers um, dry up, there will still be sellers, and then it's going to drop lower. Because yeah, I mean, like somebody like me, for example, I'm waiting for 69 cents. And so there's like a psychology in that. You got to think about it. Like there are people now that are saying like I bought at 74. They're like, oh, this is a great dip buy. I'm going to be buying here while it hangs out below $1. I'm going to be accumulating. Eventually, those people are going to dry up because they're going to be people like me who are saying, I'll buy at 69 cents. And so that's kind of like willing it into existence, sort of, that, I was a buyer here at 74, but now I'm off the table. I'm a buyer that's dried up until it comes down to 69 cents. And so if there aren't buyers now pushing it to break out, especially, with all this volume, it's probably going to come lower. So I think 69 cents. Oh, and one thing with this that I could do, I wish I could just convert this. I'm going to adjust that to a parallel channel based on those two highs and this low over here. I think that's kind of a nice predictive channel because, we have this based on these levels that kind of suggested where the bottom would be over here, that this might be tested. And now we're testing the top of that channel. And so even with volume, we're not able to break out. We're getting pretty big wicks to the upside there. I think it's probably going to pull back. And so from this recent move up, we can do a Fibonacci retracement to get an idea where that, because I think this is, potential, well, let's say, goes back to 100%, but if it goes to the 618 or the 1618, where is that? Dang it. I don't think it's going to 57 cents, but that's lower than 69 cents. So my order would be filled. So, and then I'd reassess. So yeah, I mean, I think Luminar is going lower, but I think that one of the things I was talking about with a friend is, I hadn't thought about this, the angle on Luminar, but, it's kind of like, so this is one thing, it's like seat belts. That's a standard thing. Every car has them now. That's a safety thing that every car has. Eventually, LiDAR might be something that every car has in the future. One thing that was mentioned to me by a friend that I had not thought of was that this could disrupt the insurance industry. Because if cars are no longer really able to get into accidents because of this preventative technology that makes cars, accident-free, or whatever it is that Austin says about, a crashless car, or whatever it is, accident-free car. I forget what the saying is, or the phrase that he uses. But if cars are getting into less accidents, fewer accidents, that's disrupting the insurance industry. That's, and so that I think is a pretty interesting thing because, why would you be paying for such high insurance when you're not able to get into an accident with a car because of this technology? Insurance rates would then go down. So I find that to be really interesting. A crashless car. Okay, yeah. I mean, I feel like this is like a novel technology that makes a lot of sense as far as like the comparison with seatbelts, that there are seatbelts in every car now. And then thinking about it with disrupting the insurance industry, there's just so much for this. And also, I mean, Luminar's been developing semiconductors, which is a huge space. Look at an NVIDIA. And they're not just, it's like Tesla. They're not just a car company. They're a technology company. Luminar is not just a LiDAR company, they're a technology company. And so I think that there's a lot of upside for them. And I saw this on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore, really. But I saw this on Facebook maybe a year or two ago. Somebody being like, why do we need autopilot in Tesla or whatever? Thinking that that's a luxury thing, not recognizing that, well, autopilot is, that's based on cameras and not LiDAR as far as we understand. And one of the things that I've noticed is I have to be at work at 6 in the morning for my job. I have to be in the not arriving at work at 6. I have to be, at my workstation at 6. And so right now, with the season changing, I'm leaving when it's dark out. When I back out of my driveway, I can't see anything out of the backup camera. But if it was LiDAR, if I had on that screen a 3D map of my driveway, I'd be able to see if there's a rabbit behind me. I'd be able to see if there's a child behind me. I'd be able to see if there was trash, a trash can that tipped over or something behind me. Right now, I can't see that with the backup cameras. So I think there's a lot of expanse for this, not just for the safety aspect, but for the practicality aspect of, seeing where you're driving. I think that there's so much potential for it, but I don't think it's been realized yet. People don't understand it. Kind of like Palantir, people didn't. It's taken people a while to understand the value of that. And so I think that a couple years from now, I think this is going to be looking really good, but it's kind of in that beaten down phase, where shorts are taking full advantage of it. I had talked about, I don't know, I think that there's probably videos of me talking about how I think this could be going down to $1, sub $1, because if I was a short, it'd be like a trophy for me to drive it down to $1. That's happened. And so now, there's still potential for downside, 69 cents, 57 cents. But yeah, for me, my strategy is I'll add a little bit more at 69 cents and I'll reevaluate. Just like I added a little more at 74 cents and I reevaluated. I didn't buy more at 73 or place an order at 72.50, which wouldn't have been filled. But yeah, so I think that's a good thing to do. And so for me, I'll hold what I can, but I'm going to sell some covered calls that might force me out of some of my position. But I'll hold what I can, and I'll buy the dip if there is one at 69 cents. But I'm going to wait for that discount. So that's my strategy, and maybe that's too much of like my personal take on this. But yeah, what I was talking about with volume, MACD, there's not enough pushing it above this downtrend. And that downtrend could, let's see, 69 cents is right around this intersection, which is tomorrow. I don't think it's gapping down tomorrow. But if my order were to be filled at 69 cents, which I have not placed yet, it's just an alert that you can see right here, 69 cents. So that's actually probably a better way to visualize that, how that intersects with that downtrend. My order wouldn't be filled if it just went down to 69 cents and popped back up, or probably wouldn't be filled. But if it dipped down to 67 cents or 66 cents, then it will. And that could correspond with a dip in the next couple weeks. So that's my thoughts on that. And so now I will, Nameless. You got to let me know which stock you want if you're still here. I've been going for an hour and 43 minutes. It was 20 minutes ago that he commented that. So hopefully you're still here, Nameless. But I will switch over to cannabis and MSOS. Oh. So RM asks, okay, well, so I'll actually read what RM's added to this. So let's see. Luminar also going hard after data centers with their ASIC chips. In fact, Luminar Semiconductor just broke even last quarter. Yeah, so they're doing a lot more than just the LiDAR. And yeah, so I think that this is a really good technology company Uh, no, nameless, you got to do one at a time. Let me know which one, and I'll go over that one at a time. So let me know the highest priority one. And let's see. And then so continuing with Arum's comment, uh, could all that volume be dark pool short covering? I don't like for me, I don't know enough about that stuff. I feel like a lot of it, whether it's the AMC, GameStop meme community, I feel like a lot of people can go down like rabbit holes with that stuff and like tinfoil hat territory. And so I don't know enough about that. And for me personally, I don't, like I don't know enough to speculate on that or to pass a judgment on that. Um, that could be it because if there is this much volume traded, I would think there would be some movement in the stock price. And it's really just been in a range, like a 40% range. Let's see, I'll flip that and see from the low up to the high. For like a 50% range, so it's not that crazy. PAGS. So I'll go over that and then I'll do cannabis and then I'll come back to some of Nameless's other. Oops, I was going to type in Nameless there. So PAGS. So I'll look at that one. Oop. Close, exit, escape. PAGS. Okay, so man, this is rough. Yeah, I don't know when the last time I drew these levels, but that's rough. Yeah, fill that gap. I'm going to delete that. But yeah, so with this, and it's broken below that, man. So I do a Fibonacci retracement. 1498 is the high. Okay, so I got that. So I'll leave the 100%. 786. It looks like it's there. What is another level that could support the possibility of this being at or near support around 865? Maybe there's something here. Drawing a trend line from 751 to the low over here. I don't think that's going to be steep enough. But 751 to that low, which was 756. Okay, so that's right. Maybe that tells us that we could be at a support level. Nope, that was not a steep enough. But maybe I could move this. You know, I'm just fudging it at this point, but I can move it to let's see, what was the close here? Oh, sorry, the open. Yeah, so I'll do the close from this day. It seems like the lowest close right around there. The close is 894. That can't be right. The close on this day, 768. See, I feel like the low is probably 766. Yep. Okay, so that's from the close, and there are no closes below that level. There's one open below it, but overall it seems like it was a respected level there, and it's based on the low over here. And so that is to hopefully find similarity, yeah, with where we're at. I think it could be at support, but I think that it's pretty risky that this could keep going lower. And with it going lower, let's see, there is a gap here. There are a couple gaps. Let's see. This close was 735. This low was 730, so there's no gap there, so that's some good news. This close was 777. And the low here was 781. So there's a gap here at 777. When it gets to be like repeating like that, like I say this because I'm like in denial of it, I guess, but I'm not necessarily superstitious, but people are. And so that's a factor. It doesn't matter if I am, just the fact that other people are. And so, there's the Clash song, Where Is My Mind? Wait, no, is it? I think it's Where Is My Mind. It's if man is 5, then the devil is 6, then the devil is 6, then the devil is 6, then God is 7. And so this 777, a step up from 666, maybe that is like, God coming in to this being the bottom. And by the way, I'm not religious, so I'm not trying to suggest anything there. But just thinking about psychology, that 777, there being a gap there, maybe there's something there. But there's also a gap here with the close at 894. Wait, close at 824. 824, that's correct. So that's another gap that is not filled. And so I feel like those are two levels. If it does break below the 786, and to be honest, I am, aside from the Clash song, that's Monkey Has Gone to Heaven, I think, is the song name. 7.77. Aside from that, aside from God being 7, there's also this this top here and this consolidation over here. So that makes sense as that consolidation potentially being some support. Over here, you do have these tops. So that does correspond with the 786, these tops. So it could be at support now. And so I'm kind of compelled by this uptrend in the 786, but if it doesn't respect those and it breaks lower, I think dips to 824 and 777 could be where support is found. So that's what I would look for. As far as the upside goes, I think that this needs to find a bottom first. And I don't know that it's done that. If it is to respect these levels, and one wanted to use a stop loss, I feel like 870 could be a stop loss, or 865. But then again, that could be the bottom if it wicks below and stuff and respects them. But yeah, I think that those are some interesting levels to the downside. How low do you think it will go? Nameless asks. I feel like, if it is there, there's no, I was thinking maybe, it'd be nice if there was another lower low over here so I could connect them to make a trend line that's going up. Maybe what it's doing now is arriving at a bottom that's ideally a higher low, that from that low, a trend line could be drawn that would be later tested as support at a higher level. And so I feel like it's either at support coming down to like 865 or 860. That could be support. But if it breaks below that, for me personally, I wouldn't count on 824 holding, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it hitting 777 because that's like being stubborn in the level. And so I could see it coming down to $8 a share. And does this have options? Yeah. So maybe I want to look at unusual whales to see if we could get some data from that. PAGS. So people are bullish, it looks like. Volume is not super high, though, in any of these. But this is going out to May of 2025, $9 strike, 100%. There's an alert that volume exceeded open interest, but this is like one order. and that's about $15,000 on it. So that's YOLO and a half. So it's nothing to stand out too much. But, thinking about it, the majority of the contracts here are calls, although there is this put here, there's put down here. But this is, like these are a very small volume traded on them. But they actually have pretty high open interest. So this has small open interest, 85 contracts. This one has more open interest, 11,000. Not too much volume activity on it from a couple days ago, but yeah, so this was, let's see, just going back in time. Yeah, so there's nothing too much that stands out with that. But then there's this other one. This is a put, a $10 put. But it says, it's kind of like neutral for the day because I guess there was mid, so it's like kind of neutral in that volume. Let's see, 14 days sells. So, but this is for a January 17th expiration, a $10 put. So yeah, I mean the sells back here could suggest that was on the 11th, that they were kind of thinking that the bottom is in, that it might bounce, but that's only 10 contracts. And so on the 11th, that was over here, and it did bounce. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty close, but I feel like if it breaks below 860, then I think it's going to 8. I think it's going to go past this gap, but then may not fill this one. And so I would think $8 a share is a potential bottom. And then from that, one could connect a trend line from the low here of 693 up to whatever the low would be if we do see like, a bounce that looks more notable than this bounce, for example, that the low is in around whatever it is, I think 8. And then that trend line could be, something of significance. But I think that with the 786 here and this other trend line, I think it could be just about at support. And so I'd look for dips to 865 to 860 as potential lows. But if it zips through that, $8. So hopefully that's helpful. How low do I think it will go? Okay, I thought it said how long. It's like, oh man, time frame. I think maybe like the next month or so. I think good to keep an eye on it. And hopefully a bottom's formed within the next month or so. And, oh, hey, Justin, what's up? Let's see. Hope you had a good weekend. Tilray, please. I was just going to go over MSOS, so you timed that pretty perfectly. I'd be happy to go over Tilray. I had a position in Tilray, which was not very large, and I had exited it, just not necessarily having a thesis on it, but just kind of wanting to tighten up my portfolio, which has been good because I've been focusing more on options like in and out stuff. And so I will, so I should look over at X. Somebody was pointing out something about MSOS potentially breaking out. And so I might do that. I think it was Mr. Chart. 9 and TMC I'll go over as well in a second. I'm just going to go over these cannabis ones here real quick. But I do want to pull up, let's see. I think it's probably on my likes. A lot of my likes are probably going to be Caitlin Clark stuff. So just so you know. But so I want to search my profile. Can I search my profile? Let's see. Yeah, I don't know where this would be. So MSOS. What? So there's somebody. Oh, okay. And so maybe I want to search MSOS and Mr. Chart. I don't know what his handle is. Okay, so I'll just, yeah, do that. People. I don't know. So somebody is posting something about this potentially being a breakout. It's probably from days ago. Just give me a second to scroll through this. It was something that was bullish. Okay, so maybe what I want to do is go to here, search for, man, I don't know how you guys feel about the search on X, but I've never really been that happy about it. Like, stop fucking doing this. Oops, I swore. I don't want to do that. Okay, so chart, Mr. Chart Norris. Okay, so he had posted something about MSOS. So if I scroll down, he posts a lot of stuff. I think that, so let's see. I think this might be a sign that I'm getting tired, but I'm just going to scroll a little bit more. I thought he posted something about MSOS, but maybe he didn't. So I'm sorry. I think that he's a pretty good guy to follow, so could check him out. But yeah, there was something that I saw about this potentially being a breakout. What it looks like to me for MSOS, so this is a ETF that tracks cannabis stocks in the US. What it looks like to me is there's this downtrend. I'm just going to delete all this stuff because it's too cluttered. There's a level here that looks like we pulled up to 730. Kind of got rejected there. But yeah, what stands out to me is like this downtrend. Actually, maybe there's a downtrend. It looks like it's a broadening, like a megaphone or something. I'm not really too familiar with them. But yeah, that would be like, you know, it's like a broadening, not broadening too much. But yeah, it kind of looks like it's in this channel. And we haven't seen a breakout yet. So I think that we need to see price action getting up to like 769, 770. To see this like really continue. I'm very curious to see how these play out regarding the election and stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is putting in lower lows. And so really, I mean, what we want to see is like for this cycle, I'm just going to draw this out so we can kind of see this a little bit better. But it's like, so from, you know, excluding this top effectively, we put in, you know, high here, and then a lower low, and then a lower high, and then a lower low. And so now, are we putting in another lower high? Just make that thick so we can see it like that. And so what stands out to me, I'm just going to delete that because it's kind of noisy, is that if we put in a higher high than what we saw here on August 19th, which was a high of $7.80, then this trend of putting in lower lows and lower highs and lower lows would then be not consistent. We'd have a higher high than the high over here, and that could be a breakout. So I think there's potential for this to be breaking out, but it's not there yet. And one other thing, like this is not leveraged. MSOX is leveraged. So maybe this is a little bit more appealing, but I'm just going to delete all the drawings on this. But to kind of like draw the same type of thing that I just drew, it's a little bit steeper. But yeah, this is based on the high here. But there's the same type of pattern going on here. And so, yeah, this, has come down from the high here to that low, 52, 53%. Whereas this one, let's see, has come down 27%. So this is a little bit safer, but I think it's also like nice to be in an ETF with this because it's like which companies are going to succeed or fail. Tough to know. And so this kind of like smooths that out. But then anyways, talking about Tilray, this, I had talked about in some of my prior videos. It's been a while since I've done one, but I'm just going to delete some of these retracements. But I had talked about 170 as being like a level that I had noticed, like from here, as a dip buy level here, even going lower than it, dip buy level goes up, dip buy level. And so I feel like 170, especially with that kind of converging with this purple uptrend, which goes back to the low from June 21st of 2023. I think that 170 right around there is support. And one thing that could be done, exercising that kind of stop loss plan, is, don't want to see any price action going lower than this low of 162. And so what one could do is have a stop loss at 162. And so from current price, or from 170, that represents a 5% drop. So it's not, or less than that, or let's see, from current price, that's a 7% drop. But yeah, then that would be, but this is probably all August 12th. Crazy. This is the 5th over here. Yeah, so that's kind of how I would play it. I don't plan on establishing a position in Tilray. Are there options? I imagine they're just, no, they're weekly, huh? But I imagine they're not too exciting. But yeah, that's what I would think. I think that this purple uptrend and 170 having been like a pretty notable level, that stood out to me for sure. And this purple uptrend, both being right around the same price, 170, I think we're going to hold those. But if we break below them, maybe it's a fake out. But if not, I think it could be going down to maybe 150 or lower. So I feel like a stop loss is good at 160. So I think that's kind of intriguing. And so maybe that's something I would want to evaluate for myself. Like maybe I'd want to dip buy at 170. And so I don't know that I have this on the request list. So I might add it to the request list just so I think about it. But yeah, I think that a dip buy at 170 could be intriguing, with then a stop loss at 162. And then that's in and out. And so like if one were to buy 100 shares, that's probably what I would do if I were to do this. Maybe I'd buy fewer than that, but like 100 shares, risking $174 with a stop loss at 162, that would be losing $12. So that's not a very unreasonable amount. And getting 100 shares, if this were to go back up to like the highs here, or to, like I had just mentioned, I talked about making unfilled gaps dashed lines. That's an unfilled gap. And so if it were to go up from like 170 up to fill that gap, it's a 50% swing. That would be a more than, well, like 50%. So I think I got my calculator up still. Yeah, so I'm going to clear that and do like, 174 times 1.5 minus 174. That's a swing of $87 profit to go up there. So maybe that's something that I'd be interested in. And also too, there is this downtrend here. That's maybe something. that it could be breaking out from soon. So yeah, I mean, I think that this looks really good, and I think that 162 is a potential nice stop loss level. And with that, let's disregard this 150. What's the low over here? 161. This is 161. It's crazy. 161 for both of those days. 162. So that's putting in a higher low if we disregard this. So yeah, I mean, I find this compelling for a number of reasons. I don't think it's going to dip to 162, but if it does, look out below. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I find that intriguing, very, very cool. And so then now I will do Nameless's final requests of 9 and TMC. And I'll probably go over them pretty quickly because my eyes are starting to close. I've been doing this for more than 2 hours and I am tired. So 9 and TMC. And I will also do Fastly just because I'm curious. And I'm actually going to look at that really quick because I kind of, cannabis. I don't want this on the cannabis. Damn it. Dang it. Let's see. 9. The request list. And Fastly. Request list. Okay, so now I'm going to move over to the request list. And I just want to look at Fastly real quick, out of curiosity. Hey, man. So far, I mean, there wasn't a pullback like I suggested there might be. But so far, I've drawn that pretty good. I think I drew it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When did I draw that? Did I draw it here? If I drew that here on the following the trading day of the 13th, on the 15th, I'm impressed. And I can actually check that because I posted this on the channel for You Nameless. I don't know if you saw it. So I'll go to this community. And I think there could be some volatility, 10% up on Friday. This is a neighborhood cat. It's not my cat. I like him a lot. He's funny. So let's see. Where did I draw that? This is some stuff that I post for members only, stuff on options. But yeah, so so I had drawn that. Dang it. I had drawn that there. So, that must have been on the Wednesday stream because I didn't do a Sunday stream here. But yeah, I think this is pretty cool. I feel like a target for this is around 850, so I think that's cool. But anyways, I know you didn't request that, so I'll delete that. And I'll go over 9. I'll try to do this quick. And so what do I think about 9 and TMC as long-term holds? Risky? I feel like everything right now is risky. Largely because of the volatility index having spiked recently and being up 10% on Friday. So I think it's good to be cautious. Have I traveled outside of the country before? Yeah, I've spent a good amount of time outside of the country. When I was in grad school, I spent 3 months working and living in Pisa in Italy. So I have a deep love for Italy. I used to be my career profession was oceanography. And so I travel a lot with that. I've been to Punta Arenas in Chile. It's like the southernmost city, I believe, in the U.S. Or sorry, not the U.S., in the Americas. And it might be the southernmost city. Yeah. I'm not sure how far south Australia and stuff goes, but Punta Arenas is pretty far south. So I've been there. I've been to Greenland. I've been to Iceland. I've been to Spain. I've been to Amsterdam. I've been to Uganda. I've been to France. Um, I've been to Antarctica. Um, Thanks to the career in oceanography, which I'm no longer doing. I've been to the North Pole twice. That's kind of funny. Um, and I've been to other places too, I think. I, I've been to Germany. I almost took a job in Germany in Kiel at the University of Kiel. I'm glad I did not take it. I lived in Vancouver, British Columbia for a couple years, the second year being in during the pandemic. And I'm pretty sure I've been to other places too. Oh, Norway is amazing. I recommend Norway if you like mountains. It's incredible. I loved it so much. I went with my girlfriend at the time and one of her friends. We met up in let's see, Denmark, and did a little bit of traveling. And actually, that time I was in a long distance relationship, and we met in is it Copenhagen? Is the capital of Denmark? And we hadn't seen each other in little while, so we spent most of the time in our Airbnb and didn't really see the city. But then after that, we got out, traveled around Denmark. That was a wonderful trip for, I feel like, for personal reasons, but then also just for, it was just a beautiful part of the world to see. I went around with her friend, but then once we got to Norway, no, we did a little bit in Norway together, I think. Um, I was the driver and just driving on these like 2 lane or sometimes 1 lane roads through the mountains, just incredible. I've been to New Zealand. I love New Zealand. The people are amazing. That was also traveling with a girl, so maybe there's some bias in that, but I love New Zealand. The people are so sweet. And yeah, that's the majority of the places that I've been. I'd have to check my passport though. I have not been traveling much recently though. I can tell you that. Um, but yeah, and if you guys are curious, I could do a video on some of the places that I've traveled to and maybe some of the work that I've done if you guys are interested. But I don't do oceanography anymore, and I had started like a climate science education channel, not necessarily focused on climate change or anything, not trying to push an agenda or anything like that, just trying to inform, make stuff more accessible. But people weren't interested in it. It didn't, it like, I couldn't talk about that stuff in the way that I talk about stocks. But yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to do something like that if that's of interest. But it was always just like a lot of work. And I felt like I had to kind of censor what I was saying. Um, and, it's just not fun, whereas stocks, it's, just opinions, it's thoughts. Um, and so, Nameless saying, I've been thinking of getting a Thai or Vietnamese wife. What do I think? You get tired of these American girls. And so I don't know. I've actually the continent that I've never been to is Asia, which I'm like kind of intimidated by, even though like so many people say so many great things about it. I have a couple friends in Japan, so I'd be very interested to go there. As far as getting a foreign wife, no idea. For me, that's not necessarily my focus of like getting a wife. But as far as being tired of American girls, um, I don't know. Like I went out with one a year ago who she like it was a short-term relationship. It was planned to be short-term, but she'd always say things that she was a people pleaser, and that confused me a lot because I'm not a people pleaser. I'm like fairly blunt a lot of the time, or direct, and yeah, I don't know. She's like has this mindset of like being independent and doing her thing, not wanting to be held back by a man. But I felt like we elevated each other, and she's 9 years younger than me, I think. So maybe that's something. But yeah, I mean, yeah, tired of American girls a little bit. Yeah. RM's been married to a Thai woman for 24 years. Congrats, man. That's a long time. Nice. Well, congrats to you. Sounds like it's a nice, happy marriage. Yeah. My longest relationship, I think, is about 2 years. And I'm typically the person who's not in a relationship. And when I do get into them, I fall very head over heels. And yeah, this person that I'd recently gone out with like a year ago, we haven't talked in about 4 months. And it bums me out because not necessarily about the relationship, but I thought that we had developed a really nice friendship. And that apparently was all people pleaser aspect of things. So I'm very disappointed in her, unfortunately, as a person, as a friend, as a partner. She misled me in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't necessarily am hurt by it, but I'm peeved by it, I guess. Um, and yeah, I mean, it'd be great. Like I'm the kind of person who wants to find a partner, but I very focused on what I do. I'm very focused on myself, or I focus on one thing at a time. So it's either a girl or it's what I'm doing. And yeah, I don't know. I wish this girl who's 9 years younger than me were to recognize, hey, man, this guy's actually pretty good, and we could support each other in our adventures, professional adventures and stuff. I think that'd be so cool. I think that'd be really fun. It'd be nice to find somebody to support and also have support me. And this girl also, I should say, didn't really support me that much. It was always I had to kind of bend myself to her what she needed. But yeah, well, I mean, he's been married to her for 24 years, so apparently she's pretty good. Thai women are pretty good. So I think that 24 years says it all right there. But yeah, all as you guys discuss in the chat about women and about marriage and finding the right lady, I'll talk about nine, and then I'll go over TMC, and then I'm gonna crash. Okay, so nine. This is 115. I have this downtrend going back here. Seems like a pretty legitimate downtrend. Low here, going back to November 16th of 2023. Yeah, I mean, so I'm just going to stick with that downtrend. This prior low, closing around that, this could be a fake out. I would say this, okay, so I got to delete some of this crap. Or maybe omit some of the levels. So I'm just going to do the 1618 for that as a potential downside of 96, 97 cents or $1. Did kind of test that. Excuse me. And then from this, I'm just going to leave the 0% on there. So there's less clutter. And so from this, what I could potentially see, which is 100% hopium, so take it with a grain of salt. But one thing that I could see, draw a line from these highs and then just like pull this over. Make that thick and purple. Maybe that's a neckline of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Maybe grain of salt. Measured move will be about 30 cents. And maybe we get a break over a week or so from now. And that could be bringing price up to like 160, 158, right around there. That's hopium, though. I don't think it's an inverse head and shoulders pattern. I don't think that's necessarily legit. But with this, I had kind of talked about this with the other ones. This is not something I typically do, but I'm trying to get better at it. I feel like this low here from 926, so Thursday, that was at a price of 111. Maybe 110 is a good stop loss level. And then also, I mean, with that, there's potentially this, I don't want a horizontal line, I want a trend line or a ray. 104 to there. Maybe that's a trend line that could be respected as well. So maybe that's something. Do I think this is risky? Yes, but I think putting a stop loss at 111, although I'm from my understanding, as you've been holding from up here, if one was to establish a position here, I would think that 110 is a good stop loss level. But yeah, I think it's risky. I think everything's risky right now. And also, I mean, I post videos from Gareth Soloway's channel, Verified Investing. Although I did just unsubscribe from it because there's too many other people who post on his channel, and I don't have enough time to watch all of this stuff. So I just subscribed to Gareth Soloway's channel, and he does the game plans in the morning and trading the close, and he talks about oil. And so what is Nine Energy Services? I should look up. Is an oil field service company that offers completion solutions. Okay, so I need to then go over the USO chart, United States Oil. Gareth Soloway's talked about this in that, I don't know the level. I mean, so you got to watch his game plan to get the levels, but it's probably like this. You know, there's this level here and it got rejected. This is long oil, I believe. It should be long oil. But yeah, I mean, there's maybe this bounce here, which I'm guessing that's the 50%. Let's see, am I right? Is that 50%? Nope. 618. Yeah, okay, that's the golden pocket. So this could be bouncing, but this could also then be getting rejected from up here if it does bounce. And this could also continue lower. And I think that Gareth's take on this, I think that he actually had a buy order up here, and I don't know if he was trading USO or what he was trading. I imagine USO, but he talks about oil, the commodity, the chart from TradingView, which I can't pull up in Webull, but just looking at USO, he was wanting to short this, but I don't think his order got filled. And then, you know, so this is going down, so there could be a bounce. Maybe it's just to fill this gap, or maybe just to fill this gap. But this could be coming down. And so one thing that I have been looking at is SCO, which is ProShares Ultra Short crude oil. I don't have anything drawn up here. But yeah, I was thinking about, at that time, buying some for this bounce. It seems like, though, this is like lower highs. And so maybe this is a good one to be keeping in mind when trading 9. But yeah, I think that Gareth Soloway's take on USO is that it's kind of a leading indicator of the economy and that it's rolling over and that we've topped because we've broken below trend line, retested it, got rejected, which really just further solidifies this trend line. And so, yeah, I think that this could be going lower. And with that being said, I think that 9 could be going lower. I do think it's risky, but I think that it's potentially, you know, good to have a stop loss at 110. If it breaks 110, I think 104 is on the table, and then beyond that, I think sub 1 is on the table, and beyond that, I have no idea. So I think it's risky, but I think anything's risky right now. But I think with this bounce from here, 110 is maybe a good stop loss level. And so, yeah, you do with that what you will. I don't know if that's the saying, because I know that my understanding is your average is a little bit higher, and so cutting losses sucks. One thing, maybe I'll close the video on it after I go over the other one that you requested. Oh, charge point. I'll go over charge point, and then that's gonna be the last request that I take, because I'm gonna pass out. I've been thinking of getting, oh, okay, so if you do video under traveling, it would be cool. Yeah, so maybe I'll do that. I'll maybe put up a, a post. That would take me some time to put together. So the consequence of putting a video together on travel would be that I wouldn't put as many videos together out on stocks. But yeah, so maybe I could do a poll and see what people think. And so TMC is the other one, of course. This one, I mean, this looks like it's potentially a rejection wick, and that we haven't been able to get any closes above that high of 107. So for this, I'd look for a close above 107. And yeah, then I think that would be showing some strength. But given that this has been how many trading days? 8 trading days. Yeah, I mean, because like over here, it did move up consolidation, but then broke lower. Just thinking about RSI, and I mean, this could also be like maybe an inverse head and shoulders type pattern here. So maybe this is getting ready to break out. So I'd look for a close above 107. And then beyond that, a close above the high of 119. As far as bottom side levels, I'd look for no closes, like 99 cents. Maybe 99 cents is a good stop loss level. That low is 99.5 cents. So I think maybe 99 cents is a good, too much risk at that point. But, you know, that depends on you a little bit, you know, how you want to manage that. And so ChargePoint, and actually Anfodru, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but I did go over ChargePoint earlier and so I'll give you a brief overview of what I was saying. But I did go over it earlier when I went over Blink. And so that might be some value for you to scroll back in the stream to check that out, probably around the 1 hour mark, somewhere around there. But you can check the comments to kind of, or yeah, just try it. I tend to spend a good amount of time on the stock. So if you see Blink or ChargePoint up, that's around the time, you know, that I'm going over ChargePoint. But for this, what I was talking about is that I see this low here, the all-time low of 121. And this is kind of my thought process for what I'm doing as far as adding to my position. I see this all-time low of 121. If we hit 121 again, I think the price is going to go lower. So I don't want it to hit 121. And if it does hit 121, I think I could get a better deal. So I don't want to buy at 121. We have the low here of 121. We have a higher low here of 123. We're putting in higher lows. I think that's good. That there's a 2-cent difference between those. And so I have a buy for a very small addition to my position, which is larger than I'd like it to be, but I'm fine to slowly add at lower prices. My buy is at 125 because then that's still putting in a higher low, and that could potentially be a bottom. But if we go crashing through 125, we're probably breaking through 123. We're potentially breaking through 121 and then hitting new all-time lows. And then so I'd reevaluate at that point. And so what I see with this is, or what I was talking about with Blink, is that there seems like there's a lot of levels above that are potential rejection. So yeah, I mean, I'd be cautious with this, but my plan for me is, I believe, selling covered calls, strike at, I think 253. I think my average is like 234 maybe. And, you know, so for me, it's like, I'm not going to add until it hits 125 and then I'll reevaluate. And I'm not going to sell until it's above my average, whether that's by covered call closing in the money or just me closing, selling because I want to. But yeah, 125 I feel like is the next dip buy level without accumulating up here. I mean, this is, take it with a grain of salt too. I put out 2 plug videos because I made the wrong call. that there was an up move followed by a pullback and then consolidation, and I viewed that as a bear flag. And the day after I said it was a bear flag, it broke higher. And so this could be doing the exact same thing. But so with that being said, I'm not getting anxious, buy in here, trying to get the dip because maybe it dips lower. And so I'm ready for that if it does. If it goes higher, I'm ready for that too. So that's kind of my thesis on that. So I'm going to check on the comments, which I think you guys are probably just talking about wives. But let's see. The others mostly just want to have fun and BIY. Do they have fun? The Western ones seem no good for the most part. I'm sure your wife would agree. Where did you meet your wife? She agrees. And so I guess that's a place in Thailand. And so, which is on the Mekong River across from Laos, northeastern Thailand. Very cool. I think the markets have a pullback, then go parabolic into year's end. But for Santa Claus rally, that's what I'm thinking as well. Also, probably following the election, I think that there's going to be a lot of tension leading up to and shortly following the election. And then hopefully a lot of that will be abated. And yeah, I don't know. I think abated is the correct word, or is a word. But yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of tension around the election. I think that we're a very split country, and I think that either side is saying if the other side wins, the world's going to shit. And I think that saying that it doesn't, like, for me, I'm very much, I've lost a lot of interest in that stuff over the past while, past years. But so I feel like really that's just kind of saying that the US is in a very bad place. If it's one or the other end of the world, either side of it, things are just very unstable. And so leading up to that and shortly following it, I think things will be very unstable. I think that all of the stuff that we've been hearing about, whether that's in, I guess, Far Eastern Europe, I don't want to like say country names and maybe get flagged or something, or, in the Middle East, I think there are just so many tensions. And I wonder if there are like powder kegs around the world. And I think that that could result in a lot of volatility over a weekend. I think things are fairly anxious. I'll pull up my, let's see, my indexes. And here, for me, I've been stacking the UVIX. I think my average is 496. I've accumulated a good amount. For me personally, the way that I like to trade, I have limit sells stacked up here. And I think 10% increments. I think that we could be seeing this moving up a lot. It was 9% up on the day of Friday, but continued up in the after hours 1%. If we look at the VIX here, it was up over 10%. And, it's like we've just got this like kind of wedge pattern going. Mr. Chart Norris, who I'd mentioned earlier, was posting about SQQ. Looking at this, I'm going to remove my drawings. Looking at this on the weekly time frame, it looks like there's potentially, if we adjust this here, looks like there's potentially this wedge pattern that we could be breaking out of soon. And then for me, like I've been stacking SQQQ, SPXU, SH, and SOXS. But I've kind of realized like the only one I really want to be stacking is SOXS. And one of the reasons why is because I hold some SH, and I need to delete these because they got shifted. Following this move up, I have shares at around an average of 12, maybe 1180, I'm not sure, but up here. And so I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, this is my average, right around, let's say $12. I'll pull it up on my phone so I can tell you what my average is. Let's see. My average is 1182. So from 1182, to current price, that's a loss for me of about 8%. And so I was just thinking about this today. Maybe I want to just dump my SH shares because I'm only down about 8%. And to get back to break even, getting up to 1182, I need to see an 8.5% swing, only 8.5% swing. But this one just does not move. It's so boring. And so what I was thinking is I could cut my losses in this at current price. I'd lose about $50. Not a big deal. And then instead, I could swap that over for SOXS, which I've been accumulating these. I'm not a big fish for transparency or whatever. For SH, I got 60 shares. Not a huge position. But that's, like over $600. I lost $50 on it. Not a big deal. SOXS, my average is 2180 and I got 25 shares. So I'm thinking what I could do is I could dump my SH, take an 8% loss, that sucks, and then double or more than double my SOXS position. So just roll all of that money into SOXS. And from my current average, which is 2180, from my current average, let's go 2180, right around there. A 10% swing, a more than 10% swing is going up to 24 about, which based on this pattern, that's pretty reasonable. And so that's like I could dump for 8% loss, move into SOXS, and then swing those for a 10% gain, breaking even with those, or more than break even, make some money at a pretty small move there. Whereas if I were to do that, wait to break even with SH, that's not going up to here. That's going up to here. So it just seems like I need to cut the losses on this one, move it into SOXS, forget about this one because it's just been a bleeder. This SPXU, I can make some money on this. I'll tell you what my average is on it. I don't have that many shares. SPXU, my average is 2680. I got 9 shares. And 10% would be around 29.48. I already got a limit sell placed because I want to get out. And that's just coming back to these highs. So that's much more reasonable than I'm convincing myself to do something that I shouldn't just cut my losses on SH, SPXU. Let's see, I'm just looking it up on my phone because it just tells me, what percentage I am with this stuff. SPXU, which is leverage, so I'm probably down more than 8%. I'm down 19%. But still, I could swing that more easily with SOXS because getting up to here is basically break even for me. Whereas with SOXS, that's a 20% move. And so, I don't know if this is helpful for you guys, for me just talking about like my thought process. But it looks like a 20% move is to 26.15. And so that's like here. And so that's not getting to this high. So it's more feasible for me to make back what I had lost by selling my SPXU at a loss and just putting it into SOXS. And then with that being said, too, I'd be more than doubling my position, so I'd be getting my average even lower, so I could more readily swing for 20%. and then SQQQ. And I had kind of been doing this to like, diversify my short positions, but it's like I should just be only short SOXS. SQQQ, let me see. I'm just going to pull this up on my phone. SQQQ. I got 12 shares at $8 a share. And so what percent am I down on that? SQQQ. I'm down 6%, so I could easily just cut the loss there, move that into SOXS. Maybe I do this and then NVIDIA moons. So maybe this is a terrible idea. And so I think that's kind of why I have myself spread out in these. But to get to, like I should look at this. This is one, though, that I think it's feasible to get back to that level. From current price to get to, crap. From current price to get to, what do I have? My 10% swing is to 879. And so, this is kind of like feasible. Actually, that's to get to 10% though. And so, maybe I just want to cut at break even. I don't know. But I think that with the volatility index spike, and maybe what we want to do is look up market futures. I think I previously looked at this stuff on Dow futures. Things are up for the S&P, but the NASDAQ's down, but they're more or less flat. So I think it's like we're waiting for stuff. So yeah. But anyways, I'm just going to catch up on the, good night, RM. It's my bedtime as well. Okay, so I'm just going to catch up on the comments and let's see. So many cool places. Spend most of my time on the golf course and racetracks. Nice. Nameless. I think as far as short positions, I think that there's way more return potential for SOXS, and I'll break it down in a very simple way. Let's see. Okay, so SOXS from the low, not saying it's going to come back to these highs, but just mapping it out, or from current price up to that high, 57% swing to the upside. I look at the indexes, SH, this is going to be pathetic, to these highs, 5%, 6% swing to the upside. Not good. SPXU, this is leveraged S&P 500. Swing to the upside, 20%. Not as good as SOXS. SQQQ, almost 30%. So this is second best, but SOXS is infinitely better. So but then that's focused on semiconductors. So, but you see the patterns, they're all the same. So I think SOXS is where it's at. So I think I need to rotate out of at least SH. Cut losses. And so where would I like to travel to next? Probably Japan. I'd like to go to Japan with my brother to visit a mutual friend and a friend that I have that we don't share. And I'd like to do that at some point. I just think that for me, I think to see Tokyo, to see, I don't know other cities there, to see, to have the food. And I'd really like to see the mountains and go to some temples and the Zen gardens and stuff. I feel like there's a lot of just amazing, beautiful history and I feel like connection to a spiritual connection that I would just really like to experience. So I'd like to go to Japan for sure. And then so I see Leader 42. What do you think is the best way to make 20% without buying long calls puts? So what I've been doing, so I think to do it fast, I don't know. Um, but I think that a good way to hedge that I've been doing throughout this year, which has been bleeding, throughout the year, but I've been doing very slow dollar cost average. With this being close to these lows here, I think that SOXS, especially at these prices around 20, I think that this is a pretty nice swing to get it for 20%. That's just coming back to this. And so what I did, I don't know what my average was before, but I exited my position here. I thought I had it drawn up there. Oh, yeah. No, I thought I had it. SOXS, what am I looking at? The high here. Oh, no, not that high. This is the high that I'm thinking of. 39.69. I exited my position at 39.69. And then I've just been averaging, reaccumulating my position on the pullback. And now my average is around 22. And a 20% swing will be getting to 24. And I do incremental limit sells, so it's really not that exciting. But I have them increasing from 1 share, 2 share, 3 share, 4, up to 6, which is for 60% gain. And then my remainder is 4 shares. That's for 70% gain. And that's at 37.05. Do I think it's going to 37.05, which is like back up to here? Not necessarily. But I think that this is a good one to hold because I think that the market in semiconductors have topped. And if they haven't, it's fine. Just do what I did throughout the year and just slowly accumulate, average down. And, like a 20% swing for me is going to 26.15. And I think that's, getting up to like right around here. I think it's totally feasible. So I think that's a pretty good 20% swing. And Leader 42 is saying, Japan is beautiful. I went last summer. Flight wasn't fun. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if that's something that like maybe I fly to Hawaii and have a layover there. I've been to Hawaii a couple times, but that was to go to conferences in Waikiki, I believe, Honolulu. And I went to a beach just outside of it, but I didn't really explore outside of the other islands. And a bunch of my colleagues did, and I regretted not doing that. I'd been there twice for 2 conferences, and I didn't take advantage of it. And so, yeah, maybe going to Japan, stopping by Hawaii on the way there, that would be fun. But yeah, but anyways, I've been doing this for almost 3 hours. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm going to sign off because I need to get to bed. Want to get to, looking at the charts and stuff for myself before the market opens to have a good day trading. But yeah, I assume that all of you guys are subscribed. But if in case not, or if in case you have not liked this stream, make sure you like it. And thank you so much for the engagement during the stream. I was worried it was going to be a little bit quiet. I thought it might be a shorter stream. But yeah, it's been fun exchanging with you guys. And I hope that you have a great week, whether it's volatile to the upside, downside, or flat. I hope that you guys have profitable weeks. And, I will... be streaming again next Sunday, and I'll try to have some videos out tomorrow, but I gotta be a little bit productive at home, so I don't know how many videos I'll have. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. Take care, you guys. Sleep well, and hopefully it's a good week for all of us.